اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. بارئ الخلائق أجمعين، فاطر السماوات والأرضين، والصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وخاتم النبيين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الميامين، واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه الكريم: هو الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا. صلوات. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the death and the life so that He can judge and test us. Which one amongst us is performing actions of better quality? Better actions. So, death, just like the life, is a haqiqat and reality. And just like any other haqiqat and reality, this reality is also unescapable. There is no human created by Allah who has ever or will ever avoid death. Including, this sunnat includes the prophets, the imams, and even the shuhada. When we talk about the shaheed never dies, what we mean by that correct statement is that al-mautul haqiqi, the real death, never comes for a shaheed. But as far as al-mautul zahiri, the obvious death that we all face, which means getting transferred from this world, is also faced by a shaheed. He gets transferred. So the haqiqat of maut is unescapable for all, and when a Muslim person passes away, Islam has informed us with very interesting, wise and beautiful teachings how we are supposed to do towards the deceased person. And today we are going to discuss some of those rulings and some of the adab related to the mayyit, which means the deceased. The subject of the presentation, as you know already, is the 7 T's, because all these things that I have mentioned, the bullet points, they all start with the Arabic alphabet of Ta, which we translate into T. So we will discuss the 7 T's. As mentioned here in this slide, we will talk about the tafsil, the washing, and then the tahneet, which means putting the kafur, and the takfeen, which means wrapping the shroud or the coffin on the dead body, which is different than the word coffin itself. Coffin means the shroud, the cloth that we put, those pieces of cloth that we put on the dead person, those pieces of cloth are called kafan, whereas takfeen is the process, is the verb is the infinitive. That means it's the process of wrapping the kafan on the person. And then we'll talk about tasliya. That's the masdar of prayers in Arabic. And then the infinitive for prayers, tasliya means praying. And we'll talk about tadfeen, meaning burying the person. And then sixth of all, talqeen, which means we remind the dead person about the information which is most vital for his success, as he has already been transferred to a different world, which is the world of haqa'iq and realities. So only the realities count, and nothing but the realities count there. So he must be reminded about the wider info, which is another rahmat of Allah, that He has provided us and him that opportunity to do that. So it's a reminder for us and a reminder for him, both. Also we will discuss the concept of tarheem, that means doing things, sending the thawab and rahmat of Allah. That means doing, we can't send the rahmat, we can only pray to Allah. We can only do things qurbatan ila Allah, which attracts the mercy and pleasure of Allah, so that He will send His rahmat because of us doing certain actions. We'll discuss some of those things as well, inshallah. So, first, the profile, haqa'iq of the death are classified. The definition of the death is infisal ruh anil badan. That means, infisal means getting separated, separation of the soul anil badan, from the body, wa intiqaluha, and transfer of the soul ila alamil malakut, towards the world of realities and batin. Malakut means batin, the world of realities and batin. That's the reality, that's the real definition of death. It's not getting killed, it's not getting annihilated, devastated, rooted out, nothing of those things. There is no annihilation, there is no destruction, total destruction of the mawjood, of an existence. In Islamic philosophy, we believe that nothing that Allah made to be existent can be converted into non-existent, because you can never convert a mawjood into a ma'doom. So mawjood can never be converted into ma'doom. So it will be wrong for a person to define death, that death means total destruction and total removal from the existence. That's not the definition. Or what the doctors may have their own medical definition of death, fading of the pulse, or stopping of the heartbeat, or brain stopping its work, and all those things which are very good signs. These are okay, these are nice signs, so we don't deny that these things do happen, but that's not the complete definition. The complete definition will remain incomplete as long as you mention the fact that now the soul is transferred to a different world and it's living there. So it's not total destruction or devastation or getting converted into non-existent. So it is existent. If it was non-existent, it would have been silly for us to read talqeen on the mayyit and reminding him of all that vital information and questions that he will be asked, and the answers to those questions. It would be silly. And a whole bunch of other things that we are doing, actually, they are more aware and informed and awakened and ready to listen and able to see as compared to us. They see more than what we see. In that world, after getting transferred to that world, they listen to more than what we could ever listen, unless we have the tazkiyatun nafs. That's a different thing. And they understand more than what we understand. when Prophet was talking to the shuhada after the people who passed away after the battle of Uhud ended, and Prophet was talking to the dead, addressing the dead people, and somebody objected on him. That's what he said, innahum asma' minkum, they listen more than you. So how can something listen to more than what we listen unless the thing is alive and existent? So it's not total devastation. Death is actually a new form of life, a different form of life, at a different place, in a different situation. And that's what we are discussing in Fisalu Ruh and Al-Badan. So Ruh gets separated from the body and gets transferred to a different world, which is the world of hidden realities. The purpose of death is certainly a test, proving that the mabda and ma'ad, the origin and the destination, is the same. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi. Certainly we belong to Allah, and certainly we are returning towards Him. We are returning. So inna ilayhi, towards Him. Raji'un, returning. So the point of origin and destination, mabda and ma'ad, is the same. And death is nothing but the return towards the origin where we came from, and causing all to believe in the ilm and qudrat of Allah, and that's how we will end up realizing. So it's better that we realize before that. Before the death, we realize about the ilm and qudrat of Allah, but at the time of death, everyone will end up realizing the ilm and qudrat of Allah, and the fact that there is no one knowledgeable and no one powerful other than Allah, Zatan, Bizat. Status of the death is death. Its status is that it's liqa Allah. Again, we would never learn about that unless we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send down His Prophet and Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam and His book. So in the light of the teachings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we can obviously understand it's nothing but we meeting with Allah. When we die, we meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Depends on what is our status of iman and taqwa, or failure to have iman and failure to have taqwa in the soul. The situations in which we meet with Allah is depending on those two things, iman and taqwa. But it is meeting with Allah. Whether Allah will be pleased at that time or displeased, it all depends on the iman and taqwa or lack of iman and taqwa. Frequency of occurrence is only once for all, that's for sure, but it has to be done voluntarily by the human beings if they are serious about their spiritual purification. So voluntarily done by all those who are serious and those who love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they are the beloved of Allah. They are awliyaullah, the beloved servants of Allah. They act on this, mutu qabla an tamutu, die before you die. That means you take the souls out of getting attached with the material belonging of this world before your soul is forcibly transferred and separated from your body. Forcibly getting transferred is what happens to everybody, even the kuffar. And there's no superiority for anyone if it's forced upon him. So forcibly upon the rest, because of course, kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut summa ilayna turja'un. Every nafs is basically, we learn in the light of this verse that every living will be facing the taste of death, and then he will be transferred. Ilayna turja'un, you will be returned. So basically, whether we like it or not, we will be returned, despite our likeness or dislikeness. So this is imposed upon us. If it left up to the people, then a lot of people will never like to return back, but that's not their choice. So, but it's the greatness of a person that he voluntarily imposes death. Imposing death means imposing the same scenario that happens at the time of death. What happens at the time of death? You get disconnected. So you disconnect yourself today. Of course, voluntarily imposing death does not mean that we kill ourselves. Suicide is, of course, forbidden and haram in Islam. What we mean is that you do what happens to you at the time of death. What happens at the time of death is that you get disconnected. And you get attached to the alam al-malakut. You get transferred there. So you do the same towards yourself today. Time of death is unknown for us, but for the death itself, there is also a time for death. And that is on the day of judgment, after the end of accountability, death itself will be destroyed. And in some of the narrations we learn that it will be, Allah will bring death in the form of a sheep and it will be slaughtered. And that's where a munadi, an announcer, will announce that, to the people of, when the people of the hellfire will be, it will be announced towards them that khuludun la maut, that means now eternity. It's an eternity, not death, no further death, in other words. So now you're going to stay there forever. So death itself will be killed at that time. So there will be no further death after that. And we do believe, according to some of the most authentic hadiths, that Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam is visibly seen at the time of death, because he said to Haris al-Hamdani, Ya Haru Hamdan. Hamdan was one of his, Hamdan is the name of a tribe in Yemen. And this tribe was one of the lovers of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam in Yemen. And Haris al-Hamdani belonged to that tribe from Yemen. So Imam Ali salam had said to him, Ya Haru Hamdan, man yamut yarani. Whoever dies sees me. So that's a matter of consensus in our Islamic Isna Ashari belief system, that every human being sees Imam Ali alayhi salam without exception. And our fariza and duty towards that is not to be afraid, because it's haqq, and there is no room for a mu'min to be afraid from anything of the haqq and haqiqat. The more we run away from any haqq, the more we are running away from Imam Ali alayhi salam, because Prophet has already said, Aliyun ma'al haqq wal haqqu ma'a Ali. That's the mazmoon riwayah. So Ali is with haqq and haqq is with Ali. That's the gist of the narration. So instead we are supposed to run away from our sins. This is the policy of a mu'min in his life, that he runs away from his sins because he is prepared for death. He runs away from the sins towards Allah. And that's how we are supposed to do. First things first, before we move to the point number 1 of tafsil and washing the body, it is important to remember, first things first, izn. Izn in Arabic, there's a difference between izn and ijaza. Izn is a prior permission, whereas ijaza in Arabic language we use for a permission that can possibly be taken even after the action. Whereas we never use the word izn in Arabic for taking permission after committing the action. So that's what we say. Ali ibn Yaqteen was working in the Taghut's darbar, Taghut of that time, Harun Rashid la'anatullah alayhi's darbar, with the permission and izn and consent of the wali and mawla of his time. That's what today so many people are exploiting. Every now and then you go to different communities and you find so many people talking about Ali ibn Yaqteen, Ali ibn Yaqteen, Ali ibn Yaqteen, misusing his name for their personal agendas and political interests, forgetting the basic fact that in Islam he was working with the izn of the wali of his time, which is prior permission before doing an action. Did you take the permission from the wali of your time before serving the Taghut? Or you just learn how to use the name of Ali ibn Yaqteen and justify your agenda? So izn is the prior permission. we need to take the ism from the wali of the mayyit, and it's wajib before the first 5 T's. What were the first 5 T's? That means that before doing the ghusl, the tafsil, you need to first take the permission from the wali of the mayyit, and tahneed, putting the kafur, before wrapping the kafan, before praying, and before the burial. So for all these things, we require the permission from the wali of the mayyit. Who are the wali? Dhukur inheritors have the preference, the Sharia says, over the inas. The female inheritors, the male inheritors have the preference and tarjih over the inas. Over the male inheritors have the preference and tarjih over the female inheritors regarding the izn. Also the Islamic Sharia informs us whoever is preferred in receiving the miras and inheritance is preferred in giving the izn also. So if you belong to the first tabaqa and state level, in miras and inheritance, is a very elaborate subject. One of the biggest books, if you look at any big book of fiqh in Arabic and you find all those chapters that we have, you will find that there are 3 books which are huge, and 3 chapters of fiqh which are huge in size in any book of Arabic Islamic jurisprudence. And one of the 3 biggest chapters in our books of Islamic jurisprudence is miras. It's a huge discussion, huge, and very minute and delicate details about all those things. So miras has its own elaborate details, but we have tabaqat, we have levels and stages of inheritors. In the presence of the first level of inheritors, the second level of inheritors do not inherit nothing from the dead. In the presence of the second layer and level of inheritors, the third layer inherits nothing from the dead. So that's what I'm referring to. For those of you who are familiar with the layers and the levels of inheritance, which we can talk when we're discussing that. I am not going to go into those details right now, otherwise we'll be left out of this subject. Whoever is preferred in receiving the miras and inheritance is preferred in giving the izn and permission as well. Third of all, if mayyit fixed some muayyan specified person as his or her wasi. When you do your wasiyat and will, Islam says, first of all, it is sawab. In your lifetime, you write down your wasiyat. A mu'min should never sleep without having his wasiyat under his pillow. This is a sign of a mu'min. When you make the wasiyat, ishhad is also mustahab. You make 2 people as your witness. 2 people as your witness that this is my wasiyat. Give it to them, show it to them, or read it in front of them. They are witness over what you are writing and saying. And tomorrow if there's a dispute taking place about what you said and what you didn't say, these 2 people can bear witness in front of anybody. So it's mustahab that you make 2 people as a witness over your wasiyat that you do write down in your own lifetime. So let's suppose in your will, in your wasiyat, in your final testament and will, you have mentioned that all my affairs of my life, whatever I need to perform, this much money of mine need to be given to such and such charity, this much money should be specified for this orphan child, whatever you want to write down in your wasiyat. And executor of the wasiyat is Mr. A. Now this Mr. A, who is now appointed by you to execute your wasiyat, is called wasi in our fiqh. If he accepts, it will become compulsory on him to execute what he accepted. If he says, no, you want to make me wasi, but I'm not ready to accept it, then fine, we are not here to oblige anybody. But if he happened to accept it, now he is the wasi officially, and he is now appointed and by you as his wasi, and he accepted it. So he is now considered to be, quote unquote, the wasi of the mayyit, the official executor of your will. So if the mayyit has fixed some muayyan specified person to be his wasi or her wasi, then you should seek izn from that wasi and waris both according to the ihtiyat wajib. In Arabic we call it ihtiyat wujubi. Okay. Uh, the things which are mentioned in my slides, if you all give me your email addresses, I can forward this PDF file presentation to all of you, inshallah. So you don't have to write down what is mentioned here. You should write down what I'm explaining other than the text. That will make things easy for you, inshallah. We will be ready to email the presentation to all of you if you please give me your email addresses. Let's move to the point number 1, which is taghsil. Taghsil means washing the dead person's body. It is wajib to provide 3 washings to every Muslim who is of 4 months age or 4 plus. Even if a boy or girl has reached the age of 4 months complete. If it is less than 4 months, then the ruling is different. But if it is 4 months complete or 4 plus, then it is wajib upon us to provide ghusl to this boy or girl, if he or she is a Muslim. So every Muslim 4 months or 4 plus should be provided the ghusl through the SGP, means the standard ghusl procedure. I intentionally wrote it in these terms so that you remember that in Islam there is only one single way of doing ghusl. There are no 2 multiple or various ways of performing ghusl. There is only one standard procedure in the entire religion, Islam. The same procedure we apply for washing ourselves in our lifetime when we do the ghusl Jum'ah, ghusl janabat, or ghusl haid, or istihala, or nifas, or masul mayyit, or the same standard procedure of ghusl is the one that we apply on the dead person when we are washing his or her body. There's a one standard procedure, no need to worry about what is the way, how we do it for the mayyit. It is the same way. There's one way of ghusl in Islam and there's no other multiple ways. So ghusl is done according to the standard ghusl procedure. These are 3 ghusl that we do in the same sequence that I wrote. You need to take care of the sequence. You cannot mess up the sequence. You have to do it in the same procedure. The first one has to be with the ma'us sidr, that means water which is mixed up slightly with sidr, and neither so much mixing that it becomes mulaf. The urful uqala, the regular Islamically intellectual people of society no longer call it a pure water. They say it's all sidr, or it's so much mixed up with sidr that now it's no longer considered to be mutlaq and pure. It's now called as mulaf, an impure water. So we don't mix up to that much extent, just a little bit of mixing, and that's enough. Nor so less that the urf doesn't call it mixing at all. So if you just touch it like this and take it out, of course this is not right. So a little bit of mixing, that's enough. So this is called the ma'us sidr. That's the first ghusl that you have to do. And the second ghusl is with the ma'ul kafur. Except these 2 exceptions which I mentioned in the bracket, in the parenthesis. Muhrim, person who did the niyyat of ihram for hajj. If such a muhrim person passes away, qabla sa'i, before the walking between the Mount Safa and Mount Marwa. This walking between the 2 mountains is called sa'i, between Safa and Marwa. So if the person who is muhrim, that means, muhrim means he did the niyyat of ihram for performing a hajj, and he passes away before he fulfills this segment of the hajj, which is sa'i, that means walking between the Mount Safa and Mount Marwa, then for him the ruling is different. Likewise, a muhrim person who had the niyyat of ihram for performing an umrah passes away before qabla taghsil, before cutting a little bit of his hair or a little bit of his nails, depending on the fit or fatwa of which mujtahid you are following. So this is called taghsil, cutting a little bit of your hair or a little bit of your nails. That's what we do after we end our walk between the 2 mountains of Safa and Marwa, and when we end our 7th walking at the mountain of Marwa, that's where we do the taqseer, that means cutting off a little bit of the hair or the nails. So if a muhrim person who did the niyat of ihram for umrah passes away before cutting a little bit of his hair at the Mount Marwa, then the ghusl for these two people, these two types of muhrims, needs to be done with the ma'ul khalis, that means the pure water. That means it should not have kafur in it, it should be pure water. That's the ruling, which is these two categories are exempt from the second ghusl of ma'ul kafur, water of kafur. Instead, these two categories need to be washed with the regular pure khalis water. Third ghusl is with the ma'ul khalis, the pure water, and that's how the ghusl is done. 3 ghusl. Now the standard ghusl procedure, the SGP. The standard ghusl procedure is as follows. After making sure the prerequisites, and the prerequisites are, of course, you all know, you need to have the body need to be tahir and clean. If there is any najasat, you have to make your body tahir. That's what we do in our lifetime as well. That's what we do for the dead person as well. If there is any najasat on the body of a dead, you have to make him tahir first before starting the ghusl. The blood stains, any glue, gum, band-aids, bandages, anything which is sticking to the body that can block the application of water reaching the skin. You need to remove the obstacles, make the body pak, make sure the water that you are using is according to these conditions. You know, if it is mutlaq and khalis water, then it has to be khalis and pure, not mulaf. If it is kafur, then there has to be kafur. If it is sidr, there has to be sidr in it. The water needs to be mubah, permissible to use by the owner, and all those conditions. And then basically, I think I have mentioned, no, yeah, that's what I'm explaining. Yeah, so make sure the water is mubah, permissible to use. The sidr which you are using is mubah, permissible to use by the owner of the sidr. Kafur is permissible to use and mubah for you. None of these things should be maghsoob and ghasbi and usurped. So we can't do any of the ibadat. Ghusl is an ibadat. We are doing it with the niyat of qurbatan ila Allah. None of the ibadat can be done with any maghsoob thing, ghasbi or usurped thing. Of course it's batil. So we need to make sure all these things, and then after you make sure all these things happen, the body of the mayyit is pak and tahir, the obstacles, glue, things are removed, bandages, band-aids, whatever, all those things are removed, and you have already taken permission from the wasi or the warasa, the inheritors, or both in some cases like I already mentioned. And now you want to start the ghusl. So of course the first thing for the ghusl, like any other ibadat, is the niyat. And you have to do the niyat that I am doing this ghusl for this such and such dead person, qurbatan ila Allah. That's it. So, but you have to do the niyat. If you just started the ghusl without the niyat, this is not the way of doing it. So, and in our lifetime, we do the same. We do the niyat. After making sure all those prerequisites are there, the water we are using is mubah, our body is tahir and pak, you don't have any obstacles, ballpoint ink or glue or anything on our body that blocks the reaching of water to the skin. So you remove all those things. The place is mubah where you're standing for the ghusl. The water is mubah, all those prerequisites. And now you start the ghusl through the first step, which is niyyat. You do the niyyat. I am doing whatever ghusl you are doing. Doing the ghusl of Jum'ah, mustahab, qurbatan ila Allah, for example. Then you wash your head and neck first, and completely without missing on any slightest thing. Even if a tip of the hair is missed out, the ghusl is batil. So make sure the whole head and neck completely from all the 4 sides are washed. And then we move forward to the right hand side. If you cut your whole body exactly into, whole body other than the head and the neck, the rest of the body, if you cut it exactly into half, this is the right half side. Now you have to wash the right half side from the front and the back. Make sure you raise your feet Some people don't raise their feet because when you are standing, sometimes the water may not reach the soles, the bottom of your feet. It's also part of your body. So some people don't raise their feet. So make sure you raise the feet so the whole right and left side of this, the whole front and the back side of the right half is washed completely. And including the private parts completely. Don't say that, well, we'll just wash the half of it. No. Private parts you have to wash completely, front and the back. Then you move forward to the left half. You wash it from the front and the back. Again, the private part should be washed completely when you're washing the left-hand side. Raise your feet, left feet as well, to make sure water reaches the sole. That's the standard procedure of ghusl in Islam. And it is also very important to remember what we say for those of the brothers and sisters who participated in the fiqh classes. We mentioned to them, we have something in our fiqh that we call min bab al-muqaddimah. Min bab al-muqaddimah means as muqaddimah of course means the prelude. What we mean with this terminology in our Islamic jurisprudence, this is an istilah, a terminology in Islamic jurisprudence. It means that when you're washing your head and neck, make sure you wash a little bit down from all the four sides. Little bit further down from all the four sides. This is how min bab al-muqaddimah. This washing a little bit further down from all the four sides, down from the neck, a little bit further down. This serves as a muqaddimah and prelude for you to make sure and have yaqeen that you did not miss anything of the wajib amount. Because you are now washing a little bit further down. Isn't that right? Likewise, the law of bab al-muqaddimah applies on the right hand side when you're washing the right half. Wash a little bit further of your left as well from the front and the back. Min bab al-muqaddimah. As a prelude, because now you will easily make sure you did not miss out on any of the right hand side's portion. Likewise, when you're washing the left hand side in the ghusl, wash a little bit towards your right as well from both the sides, front and the back. Min bab al-muqaddimah, to make sure that's how you will have yaqeen that you did not miss out on any portion of the left hand side. Okay? So this is called min bab al-muqaddimah. The same rule applies for wudu as well. When we do the wudu, it's wajib to wash from the lengthwise, from the root of the hair till the tip of the chin. And the lengthwise and the widthwise, we wash what falls between the middle finger and the thumb of a regular person's hand. If somebody has extraordinary bigger or smaller hands, it's not counted. A regular person's hand. So this much is the width. But then all the fuqaha say, min bab al-muqaddimah, you have to wash a little bit further on the right and the left. So you make sure you did not miss out on the wajib amount. Isn't that right? The same we apply in wudu. When we were discussing the fiqh, in the fiqh classes here at the center, we talked about this issue. Likewise, when you're washing the hand, it's from the elbow downwards towards the tip of the fingers. Again, min bab al-muqaddimah, here in the case of wudu means that you have to wash a little bit further up over the elbows. Start from here, a little bit over the elbows. So you make sure you did not miss out on the wajib amount. Okay, so this is what is called min bab al-muqaddimah. So, min bab al-muqaddimah, I was explaining the procedure of ghusl, that you wash a little bit further down from the neck from all the four sides. When you're washing the right half of the body, wash a little bit of your left side from the front and the back. When you're washing the left half, wash a little bit towards the right, front and the back, to make sure that nothing of that amount was missed, which is wajib. So this is the standard ghusl procedure, and we have the next slide. It is important, before I go to the next slide, very commonly we see in some cases, especially those of you who have been experienced in handling the ghusl in the past, May Allah give you jaza for all those services. You may have encountered bodies which have blood coming out from the mouth, from the nose. Person died in an accident. He has injuries and bandages. He's still bleeding. In those kinds of situations, in Islam, we can't start the ghusl unless the body is tahir first. So you have to wait. The blood should stop coming out, and that's why we make the body tahir and pak first, and then we start the ghusl. Unless you are forced, you have no other option. Well, one of the options, as we are talking about the options, one of the options is the freezers. Here we do have freezers. If you can put the body for a while in a freezer for a couple of hours, or 5 hours, or 10 hours, whatever, and the blood freezes inside and then stops flowing outside, that's good. You can wait, you can put the body in a freezer for a few hours, the blood stops in that way, and now you can go and do the ghusl in 45 minutes and come back. You can make the body pak and tahir first and then start doing the ghusl. The blood is no longer coming out. This is one of the options. But not everybody has these options. People are living all over the world. Islam is for everyone. People are living in deserts, in villages where there is no electricity. You cannot expect them to put their dead people in the freezers. So if the blood is coming out, you should either wait, let the blood flow out. You don't need to protect the blood of a person after his death. Let the blood flow out. Nothing wrong with that. When the blood stops, then you start the ghusl. If it is absolutely must, you don't have that much time at all, or some legitimate Islamically justifiable reason, you cannot wait, then of course, if you have no other option and you have a justifiable reason not to wait, in that case, Islam says that you can just wash the body, make it pak, and if the blood still is constantly flowing, you hold it with some cotton or something, and then rest the whole part of that body. When you come to this portion, again wash it again and wash it, remove the cotton, wash it, and put the cotton back. That's the most you can do. Isn't that right? You can do, if we are supposing in extreme situations where you have no other option to handle. I already mentioned that if we have all those possible options or any other possible option, we need to wait so that the body is pak and tahir first before we start the ghusl. Please write down your questions. If you have any questions, you can please write it down, give it to me, or email it to me in one of the ways. So we have all the questions available. Taqsil, we have some shara'atul ghasil. Basically, there are 4 shara'at. 4 shara'at. Ghasil means a person who is washing the dead person's body. He's called the ghasil. The person who is washing is called the ghasil, the ghusl giver. So he or she must be an Isna Ashari Muslim. You cannot ask other people to wash an Isna Ashari Muslim's body. Second of all, it should be he or she should be Islamically mature. We can't ask a 7-year-old, 6-year-old girl or boy to come forward and give the ghusl who is not mature Islamically. We become Islamically mature by showing at least one of the 3 signs. There are 3 signs, remember, there are 3 signs how a boy or a girl becomes baligh. So any of those 3 signs, if it appears earlier than the rest of the 2, the person becomes baligh. First sign is the wet dreams, ihtilam. The second sign is growing of the pubic hair. And third sign is the age factor. So if a girl completes her 9 lunar hijra calendar years and she starts her 10th lunar hijra calendar year from the day 1, from the time of Adhan al-Fajr, day 1 of the 10th lunar Hijra calendar year, she will become baligh. So she has to start praying from the Adhan of Fajr of the day 1 of the 10th lunar Hijra calendar year. So it's completion of the 9 years, completion of the 9 lunar Hijra years, not beginning of the 9th year. Some people are confused about this as well. And for the boy, the third age sign is completing 15 lunar Hijra calendar years and starting the day 1 of the 16th lunar Hijra calendar year. So these are 3 signs. And then the person who is ghasil, I mean the one who is giving the ghusl, needs to be aqil, means sane. You cannot ask a non-sane person, insane person, or person who is drunk, who has lost his sanity and sobriety. You can't ask him to give the ghusl. It has to be aqil. A drunk person is not categorized to be aqil at that time. Fourth of all, a person should be alim bil masail, knowledgeable. He should know the issues and rulings of what he's doing. If you're leading the prayers, you should know the rulings of the prayers. If you are doing the ghusl, you should know the rulings about the ghusl. Whatever you are doing, you need to be knowledgeable about what you are doing. Know before you go. Ghasil must have the niyat of qurbatan ila Allah, doing it for the sake of Allah, for all the 3 ghusl till the end of the 3rd ghusl. Niyat is something which is, like I already explained for those of you who were in the Salat presentation, niyat is never oral in Islam. It's always in the heart. It is qasdul qalb, is the intention found deep down into the heart, which is the motivating factor and incentive and driving force behind the action. It's not on the tongue. It's not oral. Even if you say whatever you say with the oral tongue, it's not counted to be the niyat. So please don't bother to focus on what you are saying. Focus on what is found in your deep down in your heart. That's the real intention, which is the driving force for you to do this action. So niyat is something which is before the beginning of the action, through the action, till the end of the action. It's something which is continuous. Like some people ask, okay, I'm praying the namaz al-shab, salatul layl, 8 rakat of nafila. Okay, so for each 2 rakat, 2 rakat, 2 rakat, 2 rakat that we pray. So are we supposed to do the niyat again and again and again? Or the nawafil we pray after the maghrib prayers, 4 rakat nafila, 2 rakats and 2 rakats. Isn't it right? Some people ask, are we supposed to do the niyat again? Or like in the prayers that we do in the Laylatul Qadr. Some people say, are we supposed to 4 rakats prayers or 6 rakat prayers, 2 rakats, 2 rakats, 2 rakats? Are we supposed to do the niyat again? Well, niyat is something which is from the time which is before starting the action, through the action, till the end of the action. When you are saying a 6 rakat prayers, which is required to be said in the form of 2 rakats, 2 rakats, 2 rakats, but this is actually a 6 rakat prayers. Isn't that right? So you just make the niyat from the beginning of the action, before the beginning of the action, you do the niyat, I am praying such and such prayers, 6 rakats, qurbatan ilallah. It's before the start of action. And then you start the action and the niyat continues. You end your first 2 rakats, your niyat is still there. You just stand up, say Allahu Akbar, that's it. You don't have to repeat it anyway. Your niyat is already there deep down in your heart. You say the next 2 rakat. Then end the next 2 rakat, then again stand up and do the next 2 rakat. Niyat is there through the action till the end of the action. From the beginning, before the beginning, through the action, till the end of the action. So ghusl is no different. Niyat of qurbatan ilallah for all the 3 ghusl till the end of the 3rd ghusl. It's a continuous thing. Since ghusl al-mayyit is al-wajib al-ta'abbudi, it's not wajib al-tawassuli. This is also those of the sisters and brothers who are attending fiqh classes, they already know these terminologies. We talked about the classifications of wajib in our fiqh. We have one of the classifications is wajib is either considered to be ta'abbudi or tawassuli. Ta'abbudi means that type of wajib where it is compulsory to have the niyat of qurbatan ilallah for your action to be considered as correct in Islamic jurisprudence. And tawassuli is that type of wajib al-wajib al-tawassuli is that type of wajib which does not necessarily require from you to do the niyat of qurbatan ilallah for the action to be considered as correct in terms of Islamic jurisprudence. Okay? So this is wajibun ta'abbudi. That means it does require from you to do the niyat of qurbatan ilallah. Ghusl is an ibadat. And every ibadat we do it is wajibun ta'abbudi. Every wajib ibadat is wajibun ta'abbudi, and it requires the niyat of qurbat to be done the way I explained moments ago. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Taghsil is wajib for whom? If the mayyit, deceased person, is a Muslim baby 4 months or 4 plus, we do the taghsil. If the baby is less than 4 months, if the baby is less than 4 months of age, he or she will be wrapped in a cloth, in a regular cloth, regular pak and tahir cloth, not a kafan, regular pak and tahir cloth, and buried without the ghusl, without the kafan, without the ghusl. Okay? If the baby is less than 4 months, in a regular pak and tahir cloth, you just wrap it and bury it in the grave. That's it. Even for a walad zina, ghusl al-mayyit is still wajib. You're talking about for whom the ghusl is wajib in the Sharia. It is still wajib to do the taghsil even for a walad zina. Okay? A walad zina can be a child born from dating. Some people translate zina as adultery. I never do that, because adultery doesn't include all the meanings which are included in the word of zina. Zina also includes dating, which is not considered to be adultery in the English language. So the regular dating in which a man and a woman have a relationship, sexual relationship with each other without having nikah and aqd, is also zina. Okay? But the English culture considers to be dating. Okay? So we are talking about walad zina, which is a wider scope, meaning of having a wider scope than adultery. And adultery in Arabic, we call it, in our fiqh, we call it as zina al-muhsan. Zina al-muhsan, that's what we call adultery. So, third of all, even an insane by birth, a Muslim child, baby, well, let's suppose, was born insane by birth, defected, special kid, defected, insane by birth. Still you have to give the ghusl. Taghsil is wajib. It's wajib for you to give the ghusl. If one of the parents of a baby is Muslim, at the time of the person, when the person is, when the person is, let's suppose the baby is 4 months old. That's where we need to do the ghusl. If it is less than 4 months, we don't have to do the ghusl, just bury it without the ghusl, and wrap in a cloth and bury it in the grave. Isn't that right? Let's suppose a Muslim baby was born insane, and it's now 4 months old, and one of the parents of the baby is a Muslim. That's enough for the ghusl becoming wajib on you, even if one of the parents is a Muslim. Otherwise, if both of the parents are kafir, then giving ghusl is not jaiz. It's not your choice. It's Allah's hukum is there. It's not our choice to decide. The Sharia does not allow you to do that. Okay? Okay. This is 1.4. Taghsil is haram for one category of person, a kafir person who's dying away without reading the kalimat shahada. That's the simplest definition which I wrote here. Much can be said about the word kafir, but I think for a regular understanding, this much definition is enough for applying this ruling. So a person dying away from this world without reading the kalimatul shahada is classified to be a kafir. So you can't do tafsil for a kafir person. That's not your choice. It cannot be done. Tafsil is mahramiyat sensitive. It's an issue which is mahramiyat sensitive. That means if a man washes the dead body of a non-mahram woman, or vice versa, a woman washes the dead body of a non-mahram man, the ghusl will be batil. So we must remember that tafsil is an Islamic issue which is mahramiyat sensitive. Tafsil's miscellaneous ahkam, husband and wife can do the ghusl towards each other, and father can wash his daughter himself, a daughter who is less than 3 years of age, and mother can wash her son who is less than 3 years of age. Maharim, the mahram people, can do ghusl to a person of the opposite sex without looking at the awratain, which means the private parts. Private parts, it should be remembered that private parts in our fiqh means the front and the back of a person only. So like the breasts of a woman are not considered to be part of the private parts of this terminology of awratain in our fiqh. Of course, it has to be covered. The whole body of a woman needs to be covered. But when in our Islamic fiqh we talk about awratain, we mean only the front and the back of a person. So this should be clear in your minds. So mahram people can do the ghusl to a person of the opposite sex without looking at the awratain. Man doing the ghusl of a man or a woman doing the ghusl of a woman can see each other's entire body except the awratain. Okay, again the word awratain I already explained. What does it stand for? I don't need to explain it again in our fiqh. Looking at the awratain is haram, but ghusl will not be batil. If somebody looks at the awratain, which is haram, he is doing haram, but the ghusl in this case will not be batil. Tathhirul badan, that means cleaning, Islamic cleaning of the body. I don't translate it as cleaning because some of the youth say, well, I took a shower. Taking a shower is not the way of doing the Islamic way of doing the ghusl. So let's not translate the word taharat or tathhir as just washing, just cleaning it. So we have an Islamic specified way of cleaning. So tathhirul badan means the Islamic way of cleaning the body. The Islamic way of cleaning the body, tathhirul badan, the Islamic way of cleaning body, at least that juz must be, that juz is tathhirul badan, at least that juz is must. What I mean to say, because the space was very less and I was trying to make as much compact as possible. So what I mean here is that at least that juz is must, which means when you're washing the head and the neck, at least the head and the neck should be tahir and pak before you start washing the head and the neck of the dead person's body. Then you are moving towards the right half of his body. Now that you are starting the right half of his body, the right half should be clean. Then you move towards the left half of the body. Now you have to make the left half of the body Islamically tahir and clean. Is that okay? Is that understood now? So at least that juz, that part that you are about to wash now, that should be cleaned before washing that specific part, before ghusl of that juz. Is that clear? Okay. As long as tartibi is possible, irtimasi should be avoided. This is ihtiyat wujubi, ihtiyat wajib. You know, we have two types of ghusl in Islam. One is called tartibi That means, tartib means sequence. The ghusl which is done in a specified sequence, the same SGP, standard ghusl procedure, like I explained already, washing head and neck according to the same rules that I explained, and the right half according to the same rules, and the left half according to the same rules. So this is the tartib, this is the sequence in Islam. So we need to take care of the same sequence and do this type of ghusl where you take care of this sequence is called ghuslun tartibi, sequentially performed ghusl. As long as this type of ghusl and this procedure of ghusl is possible for you to perform upon the dead person, you have to do it like this. You cannot move to the second procedure, which is called irtimasi, that means immersing the body all at once entirely in the water. This is called irtimas, ghuslun irtimasi. That means the ghusl that is performed by immersing the body. If you want to do the ghusl yourself in your life, you want to do, for instance, ghusl janab, irtimasi, by immersing the body. It's possible. You go to a lake, and do the niyyat and just drop down into the water after the niyyat. The whole body, as soon as it goes inside the water, complete body becomes, it comes in contact with the water completely and entirely. The ghusl is done and you can just come out. This is called ghusl by immersing the body. This is called ghusl irtimasi. So we can do that for the dead person only in some emergency situations. Otherwise, as long as the tartibi ghusl done in the sequence is possible, you cannot move to the other type of the ghusl. Irtimasi should be avoided according to ihtiyat wajib. It has to be avoided. If one dies in hayd or janabat, there are not two ghusl wajib on the person. You are not supposed to give the lady ghusl hayd first and then the ghusl of mayyit, or the lady or the person gives ghusl janabat first and then the ghusl of mayyit. No, that's not your obligation. What your obligation is to just give the ghusl al-mayyit. That's it. Only one ghusl, which is the ghusl al-mayyit, is enough, and that's what is your obligation. Okay? So it is not allowed for a person to charge for ghusl al-mayyit. This is also ihtiyat wajib. Let's suppose somebody called you and you said, okay, you know what, I work for Boeing and they pay me $130 per hour. So now you are consuming 5 hours of mine because I will drive all the way and come back. So 5 hours, 5 into 130. Now you can understand how much would be the bill. So this is not possible in Islam. You are simply not allowed to charge for any wajib in Islam, not only the ghusl, any wajib in Islam. You cannot charge money for any wajib. You can charge money in Islam for mustahab things, but not for wajibat. If somebody wants to learn how to read his prayers correctly, so teach me the Holy Quran so that I can correct my tajweed, so that my prayers is performed and recited correctly. So now he's talking about his wajib stuff. Isn't that right? If somebody says, okay, no, Maulana, I know already the ilm al-tajweed, what is wajib for me, but I want to become a professional qari. Now, this is not talking about something which is wajib on him. It's not wajib on us to become a professional qari. Isn't that right? So now here the money can be charged by somebody because this is not wajib. But if somebody is asking you, seeking your help for something which is wajib, you cannot charge money for that in Islam. Okay? So this ghusl al-mayyit is also because it's wajib. So you cannot, it's not allowed for a person to charge money for the ghusl al-mayyit. So if water is unavailable, then we need to do 3 tayammums. One in lieu of each ghusl. You know, you have to do 3 tayammums to the dead person's body. How do you do the tayammum? How do we do the tayammum? It's the same procedure. Again, the same standard procedure of tayammum. There are not 2 different procedures. How we do the tayammum is that, again, we make sure the prerequisites are there. prerequisites, I always assume that you all know the prerequisites. So we can move to the actual ruling. Prerequisites like the khak, the turbat, the soil which you are using, or the stone, or the dust settled on a book, anything upon which the tayammum is okay. Those things are mubah and permissible from the owner for you to use it. First of all, it has to be in the khak and turbat, and the dust or the stone which you are striking your hands on needs to be pak and tahir. The place where you are standing needs to be mubah. Okay? So all those prerequisites, obstacles from your skin need to be removed, ballpoint, ink, whatever that blocks from reaching the skin. All obstacles removed, and hands need to be dried up. If you can't do tayammum with your wet hands, the rings should be taken off your hands. All the rings need to be taken off. So all those, so and so forth. So all those prerequisites, whatever, all the rest of the prerequisites, you need to take care of the prerequisites, and now you start your tayammum. First thing again is the niyyat. Before the action, you do the niyyat. You define it in your, deep down in your heart. Why are you doing it? You need to have that theme in your heart. You don't need to say it. So if it is a ghusl, if it is a tayammum, yet suppose the time of fajr is 5 a.m. Let's suppose. And you happen to wake up at 4:56 a.m. So now it's 4 minutes remaining before the fajr can be qada. And usually you take 1 minute or 2 minutes to do wudu, let's suppose, and 2.5 minutes to say your fajr prayers. So so let's suppose you use the washroom and you do the wudu, of course your fajr will be gone. Even if you can catch your fajr prayers 1 rakat in the time, go do the wudu and do your prayers with the wudu with the same 1 rakat in time, it's okay. But if both of the rakats will be taking place outside the time of fajr, that means it will become qada. Then you can't do the wudu now, because wudu will take so long time that both of your rakats will fall outside the time. So now the Sharia says you have to do tayammum. So apart from the other discussion that whether it was haram for a person to delay that much or not, that's a totally different discussion. You should put alarm to wake up or what, that's a different discussion. But now that you are already in that situation, so now that the time is short, even 1 rakat with wudu cannot be performed inside the time of fajr, so you need to do the tayammum. So now after the prerequisites are met, now you make the niyyat, have that turbat or khak or soil already arranged in your bedroom, always in your house, because we can always end up in these situations. Isn't that right? Some people don't have the arrangement for tayammum in their houses. So this is not the right policy. We need to make the arrangements available all the time. So let's suppose you have some soil in a packet, you open it up quickly and you remove all the rings and all that I already explained, and then you join all the 10 fingers together like this, and then you have to strike it. In our fiqh we call it darbul yadain. You cannot place it like this slowly and calmly. No, this is not the way. You have to strike it. No need to be very hard, but you have to strike. It's darb. It's not wad'ul yadain. It's not placing of the hand. It's striking of the hand. There's a difference between wad'ul yadain, placing of the hands, and darbul yadain, means striking of the hands. They're two different things in the Sharia. So you have to do the darbul yadain all together. It should not be one reaching the soil first and the other one reaching later. No, darbul yadain ma'an. So it has to both the hands striking together. Okay? Now you raise your hand and you join your palms together, and you start it from the place where the hair grows, moving downwards like this. And when you reach here, then you move it like this, so that these two sides of the forehead are also covered. And then you move it over the eyebrows, and then you move it over the nose according to the ihtiyat. And then with your left hand Starting from your wrists, you rub it like this over the right hand first. And with your right hand, starting from the wrist, you rub it towards the fingers on the left hand. That's it. It takes maybe 5 seconds to do tayammum. So now you can do your both rakat of Fajr in time. So this is the standard procedure of tayammum in Islam. There's the same standard procedure applying there. You do the niyyat. The mayyit cannot do the niyyat. You are providing the ghusl, and the ghusl, when it's not possible, then you are providing tayammum. You have to do the niyyat on behalf of the mayyit, not on behalf of the mayyit, but basically you are providing the ghusl to him, and in the case you cannot do the ghusl, you are providing tayammum to him. You need to do the niyyat for tayammum. You do the niyyat for tayammum, and I am doing this tayammum in the place of the first ghusl. What was the first ghusl, you remember? Ma'us Sidr. I am doing the tayammum in the place of Ma'us Sidr, in the place of the ghusl with Ma'us Sidr. On this mayyit, wajib qurbatan ilallah. That's it. This is the theme of your intention in your heart. Then the second tayammum, I am doing the tayammum in the place of the ghusl with Ma'ul Kafur. In the place of the ghusl with Ma'ul Kafur, wajib on this mayyit, wajib qurbatan ilallah. Likewise, I am doing the tayammum in the place of the third ghusl, which is the ghusl with Ma'ul Khalis, Ma'ul Khalis, the pure water, for this mayyit, wajib qurbatan ilallah. You do the niyyat, and after doing the niyyat, you move forward and you hold the hands of the mayyit and strike it on one of those things upon which the tayammum is permissible: stone, dust, soil, for example. Strike it and then fold his hands or her hand, and just like I did, over his forehead and then the two hands. That's how you do it. Okay? If you have any questions, you can please write it down in the written form, and I will take, inshallah, your questions later. There are some dead people whose body is stiff. بدنشون قد سفت شده که اصلا خم نمیشه. اکڑ گئی ہے. بدن اکڑ گیا. Some people have their body becoming stiff after death because of whatever reasons. Now you cannot bend the hand of the person. The person's hand is like this. Like this. You cannot hold the hand and strike it over something. You can't do that. It's already stiff. Or it doesn't go to the face at all. It doesn't turn at all. You may break his hand if you try to do that. So in that case, when the person has become stiff and it's impossible, it's muhal and impossible for you to grab the person's hand and strike it on those things, then you have to do it niyabatan, in the proxy of that person. So you basically, when his hands are impossible, if it is possible, then try to do it. If it is totally impossible, then you have to basically do the tayammum, and with your hands, and you have to put it over his forehead, and then you have to, over his right hand, and you have to do it over his left hand. Okay? Okay. Tahneet. Tahneet in Arabic means putting the kafur on the 7 parts of mayyit's body. The 7 parts of sajda, where we used to perform our salat, our prayers, striking these 7 parts on the ground for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now this guest of Allah is being prepared to meet with Allah, the Lord that he used to worship. So look at how we are respecting him to meet with Allah and preparing this guest of Allah to meet with his Lord. We are putting this kafur on those 7 parts of sajda. So now that's how we are respecting. That's how we are respecting him. applying a bit of fresh kafur whose smell is not gone. You don't use an old kafur which no longer gives the good smell. Use the regular one, the fresh one, which still has the kafur coming, the smell coming out of it. On the 7 parts used in sajda, and that's what we do it after the taqseer. You don't do the tahneet before the ghusl is finished. You have to do after the 3 ghusl have ended. That's where you start the tahneet. So you put the bit of fresh kafur on 7 parts of sajda. What are the 7 parts of sajda? The forehead, the 2 palms. That's what's wajib to put in the ground, not the fingers. Fingers are not wajib to put. But what is wajib are the palms. So the 2 palms and the knees and the tip of your feet. Yeah. So even for the mu'tadda lil wafat. Yeah. Yeah. Because a mu'tadda means a woman who is in her waiting period. When the husband dies, the woman is supposed to have iddat, her waiting period. In the case of the death of the husband, waiting periods are several for the woman for different cases, different scenarios. In the case of the death of the husband, the waiting period is, basically 4 months and 10 days. 4 months and 10 days. She has to wait. There are special rulings for the woman who is in the waiting period after the death of her husband. The woman in that situation is called mu'tadda. She is undergoing the duration of iddat, and the iddat belongs to the wafat and death of the person, so we call it mu'tadda lil wafat. So for the woman who is undergoing the waiting period upon the death of her husband is not supposed to use perfumes. Isn't that right? Or the colognes, perfumes. No. But when it comes to the beautiful smell of kafur, even for the mu'tadda lil wafat, if this woman was during the period of iddat and waiting period after the death of her husband, she herself dies away. She was in the period of iddat and waiting where she was not supposed to use perfumes. But for her even, we have to apply the fresh kafur. Okay, is it clear? Now forehead, first on the forehead, this is ihtiyatun istihbabi. When you start applying the kafur, start it from the forehead. Forehead first. It's ihtiyatun mustahab. For the rest of the 6 parts, there is no tartib required in the Sharia. You can apply it from wherever first. Doesn't matter. There is no tartib required. Second and third on 2 palms, and then the 2 knees and the 2 toes. Okay? These are the 7 parts of sajda. And then it is mustahab on the tip of the nose to apply a little bit kafur on the tip of the nose. You remember it is mustahab that you put another second turbat, mohr, sajdagah. Some people put 2 because your nose should also strike on the turbat. This is mustahab, it's not wajib. So on the same nose, it is mustahab to put the kafur for the dead person. If kafur is less, ghusl has the priority over tahneet. This is the preference. Remember, we need to do the ghusl as well, which includes the ghusl with the ma'ul kafur. Isn't that right? We just discussed it. We do the ghusl with the second ghusl is with the ma'ul kafur. So here you have to add a little bit kafur into the water, and that's how it is called ma'ul kafur, because you added kafur. Now let's suppose you have less amount of kafur, you are in a desert. If you are living in a city and you can arrange it, go and buy it, go and buy it. What's the problem? You do the ghusl after tomorrow. You do the ghusl, after 5 hours. What's wrong with that? Of course we need to do it as quickly as possible, but You're not supposed to mess up with the wajibat either. Go and find it. Go and get it from somewhere and then do it properly. So, but if suppose you are in a place where you don't have access to the kafur, in that case, that's what we are discussing right now. If the kafur is less in amount and you cannot have it, you cannot find it, then ghusl has priority over tahneet. You do the ghusl first properly by adding the kafur into the water, complete the ghusl, and then no more kafur remaining to apply on the 7 parts of the sajda. Fine. Don't do the tahneet then. Ghusl has the preference. If it is less for all the 7 parts, then forehead has the priority. Let's suppose you did the ghusl with the ma'al kafur, but now the kafur is so less remaining that you can only apply on one of these 7 parts, or you apply on the forehead only and leave the rest of the 6. Okay? This is the tarjih. Now in the tahneet, it is haram for 2 persons. Tahneet is not jaiz if a muhrim lil hajj, person who did the niyat of ihram for the sake of performing hajj, dies qabla sa'i, before completing his sa'i, means walking between Safa and Marwa. Excuse me. Before completing his sa'i, the walk between Safa and Marwa, this muhrim person for hajj dies. It is not jaiz for you to apply the kafur on his 7 parts or her 7 parts of the body before walking between the Mount Safa. Likewise, it's not allowed to apply the kafur on the 7 parts of sajda for a muhrim lil umrah, a person who did the niyat of ihram for performing a umrah, and he or she dies before performing the taqseer, cutting a little bit of the hair or the nails at the Mount Marwa. It's not allowed to apply kafur on the 7 parts of their bodies. Tahneet is, remember that it is mustahab and recommended to add only a bit of turbat, not a lot, only a bit of turbat of Imam Hussain alayhi salam into the kafur before applying it on his forehead. A little bit of the turbat of Imam Hussain alayhi salam into the kafur, add it into the kafur a little bit, and be careful not to apply this turbat on areas that may be disrespectful. Okay? Of course, we don't apply it on the toe nails or the, anywhere it's disrespectful. We just apply it on the forehead. That's, this is good, because anywhere else where you think it's disrespectful, don't apply it. It is, of course, disrespectful if you're applying on the feet, on the toes, for example. So just apply it where it's not disrespectful towards the turbat of Imam Hussain, which is the most respected soil on the earth. It is makruh to use the misk. In Arabic we call it misk. In English we say musk. In Farsi and Urdu we say mushk. So it is makruh to use misk or ambar or oud. These are three nature's fragrances. It is makruh to use these 3 nature's fragrances or other perfumes with kafur for the dead person. It's makruh. Okay? So don't use them. And that's not going to help them. See, when Allah is disliking, makruh means Allah dislikes it. So don't think we are doing injustice. There are some people come here, I like my mother so much. She used to like this red skirt very much in her life. And let me bury this red skirt with her along with the kafan. Well, red skirt along in the kafan is not going to help. Don't you love her? Well, when you love her, do what Allah likes. Because she's going to meet with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Isn't that right? She's not going to meet you any longer. So let's correct our perspective. Do what is going to benefit your dead person, not what you think is right. Forget about what you think. Some people actually didn't adjust their tafakkur and belief back then in the life of dunya. So it's hard unless we adjust our behaviors in our lifetime towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Sharia. And don't use our freedom, the Western style of freedom, to violate the rules of the Sharia in the name of freedom. Okay, takfeen. One of the very important discussions is takfeen, wrapping the kafan on a mayyit's body. It is wajib to provide 3 wrappings. I think we need to have a second session, obviously, because I don't think we would be able to complete the presentation. So, but let's do as much as we can, inshallah. Takfeen means wrapping kafan on a mayyit's body, and kafan, the mayyit is supposed to arrange himself or herself in his lifetime. A moment should always have the kafan with him wherever he goes, or at least the money that suffices to buy the kafan for him. Me and you, we cannot oblige the rest of the people in the community to go and buy the dress for us which we are going to wear for way longer duration than any other dress that we ever wore in our life. How bad will it be for a person who cared about buying a Levi's jeans or a such and such brand of his shirt and jeans in his lifetime, but didn't care about buying the dress that you're going to be wearing for way longer duration in your, when you are transferred to the other world, and the dress in which you are supposed to meet with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Isn't that bad? It's the way you look at it. And if you think it in the right way, you will understand how important it is. Okay, so a person is supposed to buy his own kafan. A woman should carry his kafan always with him wherever he goes, or at least the money. We cannot oblige the community. Community is not obliged to buy kafan for you. That's your responsibility to either buy the kafan, carry it with you, or the money for that. And mention it in your wasiyat, so the rest of the people around you know that this is your kafan placed in such and such location, or this is the money that you have with you for the kafan. Write it down in your wasiyat. Don't become a burden on others. Mal'oonun man kalluhu ala nas. Somebody whose expenses is on the people is mal'oon. In Islam, you're not supposed to be a burden on the people. You have principles and values. You have to arrange for your kafan yourself, or have that much money with you. I mean, how much does it cost to buy, few meters of cloth, simple cloth? You couldn't even save that much money in your entire life. Then you are of course, financially, you are a real broke and loser. So, community is supposed to do the wrapping, which is the meaning of takfeen, wrapping the kafan, not providing the kafan. You have to provide the kafan yourself. That's your wajib. It's not their wajib. Don't be a burden on the community. Be logical. They are supposed to wrap it on you what you have arranged for yourself. Wrapping the kafan on the mayyit's body, and it's wajib to provide the 3 wrappings, and that's what we are going to discuss. The first is the upper body cloth, the qamis, pirahan. In Farsi, we say pirahan. Arabic, the qamis, the cloth, the upper body portion, which we just use like a shirt, very long shirt. The I wrote it upper body cloth. This is ihtiyat wujubi, that it should be from the shoulder to the middle of the saq. Saq means the leg which is under the knees. That portion of the leg which is between the knees and the feet. That portion of leg which is between the knees and the feet. This portion is called saq in Arabic. So it is ihtiyat wajib that this shirt, this upper qamis and pirahan should be so long that it comes from the shoulder up to the middle of the saq. Ihtiyat wajib. That's the first portion of kafan, which is the upper body cloth, qamis, pirahan. The second portion of kafan is called the izar in Arabic. In Farsi, in Urdu, we call it lungi. Something that we tie up at the bottom. So this izar is wajib, bottom cloth from the belly button till the knees. Starting from the belly button till the knees of the person. It's better, it's preferably from the chest of a person till the feet of the person. That's further better that you make this lung, this izar, this bottom wrapping cloth to be further long enough to cover from the chest till the feet. It's better. Otherwise, what is compulsory is just to from the belly button till the knees, but this is better. The third piece of cloth, kafan has 3 pieces in total. That's the wajib amount. We are talking about the wajib amount right now. There are some mustahab things which we will discuss later. This is the wajib amount. The third wajib segment is the overall cloth, the chadar, the overall cloth that you wrap on the entire body. The width, one side width should be so much that one side can come over the other. That's the width. There is no centimeters or inches mentioned in the Sharia. Sharia says one side of the cloth should be able to come over the other. That's it. Okay? So this is the width of the cloth. The length of the cloth is that so it is possible to tie up from both the corners. I mean, you are covering the whole body, so it goes beyond the head and beyond the feet, and you are able to make a knot, tie it up from both the sides. That's the length. Now it depends. What is the height of the person? Kafan of course will be different. I have mentioned some centimeters and inches as well in some of the next slides, but what I was trying to explain is that that's not part of the Sharia. These are just estimates that we have mentioned. That's not the hard and fast rule that you have to exactly do it in the same length. Now the kafan must be wrapped after the taksil is over. You can't do the kafan before the end of the ghusl. Let the ghusl end first. And of course, you do the tahneet after the ghusl ends, then we do the tahneet. That's the sequence. Then that's where, and after that we do the takfeen. After you put the tahneet, the hunut, that's where you start doing the takfeen, wrapping the kafan after putting the hunut. It is mustahab to use white cotton cloth instead of using silken cloth or other synthetic materials. White plain cotton, that's it. If possible, the cloth should not be cut with a metal instrument. Okay, you can cut the cloth with your hands, with your teeth, with your hands. For the men, it is wajib, 3 things are wajib, and for the women also the 3 things are wajib. Then we have some mustahab things for men and mustahab things for women. This is the list. We have izar, we just discussed, the qamis, the shirt, pirahan, izar, the lungi, the thing that you tie at the bottom, and overall is the chadar. The same is for the women. The wajib amount is all the same for both the sexes. Now the mustahab amount is different. We have an amama, which is mustahab to be, again, there is no size of the cloth mentioned in the Sharia. You can just take a little bit of the cloth, maybe, 1 meter, 1.5 meters, whatever, and you just tie it on the neck. That's it. Just wrap it. There is no specified special procedures just wrap the cloth on the head. That's it. So this is amam. Underwear, which is round page, and I'll explain it in the diagram very, very soon to you. And the belt that we tie up the kamarband. The benefit of the belt and kamarband is that the lungi, the izar, doesn't get moved because you have already put the kamarband, the belt. The same way we put the belt in our pants. Isn't that right? So it's mustahab. And second overall is also mustahab, that you also cover the whole body with the second overall chadar, overall cloth. Likewise for a woman, it's mustahab to put a makna, again a piece of cloth wrap a piece of cloth. There is no amount mentioned in the Sharia. Wrap a piece of cloth on her hair and neck. Okay? Wrap it up on her head and neck. That's it. Chest band, sina band to cover her breasts. This is also mustahab. There is no amount mentioned. A little bit of cloth, just wrap it so that it helps. And underwear, similar for the men, the same round page underwear. I'll explain it in the diagram very soon. Then we have, of course, the same belt and kamarband. And the benefit is again the izar or the lungi does not move. And second overall chadar, second overall is also mustahab for a woman as well. So this is the list of the wajib and the mustahab things of the takfeen, the kafan. Now here are the diagrams. The wajib part, first one is the izar and the lungi. It's like we already studied, wajib is to cover from the navel to the knees. And here is the navel button to the knees. Approximately here are the knees. Okay, this is the wajib amount. This is called the izar or the lungi. Approximate size I have mentioned here, 150 centimeter, 135 centimeter. That's approximate size, like I said. It is just estimates. You can go more or less. All you need to do is just to cover the wajib amount. That's it. So these are the estimates. And the mustahab is to cover from the chest to the feet, starting from the chest of the person to up to the feet of the person. This is mustahab. So you're going a little bit beyond the navel button and beyond the knees. From both the sides, you're going a little bit beyond. This is mustahab. This is the first part, wajib part of the kafan, that is the lungi or the izar. The second wajib part is the qamis, the pirahan, the qamis, the shirt, the upper cloth that you put over the body. The wajib is from the shoulder to the upper half of the legs. So you started from the shoulders till the upper half of the legs. Approximately it's here. Upper half of the legs. Approximately up to here. Yeah. Yeah, I think I need to do it up till a little bit further here, because that's the sock is a little bit further down. I think we need to move this yellow up till here, approximately. Up till here, approximately middle of the sock. Okay? So that's what we learned here from the middle, from the ihtiyat wajib, ihtiyat wujub is from the shoulder to the middle of the sock. Okay? So keep this in mind. That's the ruling from till the middle of the sock. So I think this yellow should be moved a little bit from here to further here. And then we have the mustahab part of the izar, lung that we put on the mayyit is from the chest to the feet. So here's the diagram. You start from the chest up till the feet. This is the mustahab to be, the lung should be that long. So now the second one, this is the second, this is the first part. Now the second one is the qamis, the pirahan, the shirt. Now the wajib is from the shoulder to the upper half of the legs. So this is starting from the shoulder to the upper half of the legs. This is the wajib amount you are covering. So you have to wrap a cloth in a way that it covers from the shoulder to the upper half of the legs. And the mustahab portion is the shoulder to upper portion of the feet. This is mustahab, and you start from the shoulders up to the upper portion of the feet, a little bit further down. So that is mustahab to make it further long, close to the upper side of the feet. This is the shirt that he or she will be wearing. And that's the approximate size which I mentioned here. Again, these are just estimates. Both. And then we have the third part, which is the overall chadar, overall covering for the mayyit. Third wajib part is the overall chadar. That's the approximate size. Remember when we studied it here, we mentioned here overall cloth width should be one side can come over the other. That's the width. And the length is that, so it is possible to tie up from both the corners. So this is the width and this is the length. Now let's see, one side can come over the other or not. See, this is, I put this fold. This fold is here. So this is one side going from the bottom, from the back of the mayyit, and coming on top of the mayyit again, coming over it. Okay. Now you can fold. This is already folded, and this one you can also fold over it. Okay. So from the width perspective, it can be folded. From the length perspective, it should be longer here and here, so you can tie up the knots here. Of course, this is not the real time distance. It has to be a little bit longer, so you can tie it. But I just displayed it to you. There is more beyond the head and beyond the feet, so you can basically tie up from both the sides. Is that clear? So that's the length, and that's how you have to wrap it, and then you are able to tie it up. This is the wajib amount. That's what we are discussing. That's how the minimum we are supposed to do it to fulfill our duty. The overall sheet to wrap around the body with one side overlapping the other and long enough such that both ends at the head and the feet can be tied up. That's the description. And then the mustahab parts. We just studied the mustahab parts for men and women. Isn't that right? These are the mustahab things. Amama for the man, underwear, a ran page, a belt and kamarband, and the second overall chadar to be put on the male person. And these are the four things which are mustahab. Let's go to the four things in their picture. So these are, we find that, there's amama, there's this, you tie up a cloth here. Again, there's an approximate size. You can tie up 1.5 meter, whatever, 1 meter, 1.5, 2 meters, not a lot, but just, it's okay, so that Urf calls it something, a cloth is tied up, that's enough. And then the belt and kamarband is like here, you tie up over the lungi, over the izar, the lungi, so that it does not move. You will be moving the body, carrying the body in the coffin, or moving the body from one place to the other. So if the kamarband is there, like a belt, it helps the lungi and the lower cloth to stay in place. Then we have the underwear type of thing, which is the ran page, underwear, ran page for covering the private parts, which is also approximate sizes that I mentioned here. And then fourth of all is the second chadar. Here's the second chadar. Again, you do it in the same way. In the width, it can be wrapped up from the back of the person, comes over it, and then this side you can wrap it again back over him again. So from both the sides you can just wrap it like this. That's the width, and the length is that it shows above the head and beyond the feet. So you can tie up, from it should be wide, long enough to come all that over that. So that's the second chadar that you just put it over the first chadar. Yeah. These are the mustahab parts for the female's coffin. These are the mustahab things. Let's go back to this slide again. These are the 4 mustahab things: makna and sine band, the chest band and the underwear and the belt and the second overall, second chadar. These are 5 things which are mustahab for a female. Now let's go to the diagram, the 5 things. So these are the 5 things. The first one is I just made it like this, and makna, wrap a cloth to cover her head and neck. That's it. It's just a mustahab thing. So her hair are in place. It doesn't move out, doesn't come out. This is the approximate size. And then second is the sine band for covering the breast. That's hair. This is the approximate size for that. And you can just tie up the cloth, just wrap the cloth, so that it's firm and it helps. And then the third of all is the belt or the kamarband, just like holding the izar and lungi. Here is the belt in the middle, and this underwear on page covering the private parts, the same we discussed for the male. And then the overall chadar is here, similar to the male. These are the 5 mustahab things for the female. Again, the sizes are just estimates. We can basically, what we need to do is just wrap up these cloths to cover up the hair, properly, and sine band and belt and the private parts. And then we have for the takfeen, we have the jaridatain. For both the genders, we use the fresh twigs without the leaves, of course from a tree, and the twigs should be of arm's length, and the name of the dead person together with his testimony in the kalima and the imam should be inscribed on them. It is just mustahab, just as things that if you want to do that, it's good. So you put it like this, like shown in the picture. The twig on the right side should touch the armpit, while the one on the left hand side should be kept above the armpit. Remember, the left hand side is always on the person, and he's sleeping on his right hand side in the grave. He's lying on his right hand side. So this one that's how he's lying in the grave, facing towards the qibla. Okay, if the qibla is here, and that's how we lie the person in the grave. The whole body is facing towards the qibla, including his toe nails, including the nails of the toe. Even the nails of the toe should be facing towards the qibla. That's how we place the twigs, jaridatain, on both the sides. Okay, just I showed it to you. One of the benefits of this is that as long as these 2 twigs, these 2 jaridatain are fresh and did not decay, there is no azab on the qabr of the person. So it gives him a very good margin to get forgiven because of some good deed. Maybe his son reads Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maybe his daughter comes to his grave and stands close to the grave and recites one Surah Al-Fatiha on the next day, and he may be forgiven by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this jaridatain are giving him a margin of possibly a few days, because it doesn't dry up in just one day. It may take 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. Isn't that right? So as long as those 2 branches of the tree are fresh, there is no azab on that grave. This is the rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the overall chadar is then wrapped around the body. Okay? This is mustahab, it's not wajib. This is a mustahab thing. Yeah, some people have this tradition in Iran. They ask the scholars or the muttaqi people and some ask from the Sayyids to write down on their coffin, they have written a text on their coffin. The guy has arranged the coffin himself. He purchased the coffin for himself, and he's written a text, a shahadat, a witness about himself, and then he goes to different scholars and atqiya, muttaqi people, and salihin, and nice sayyids, good sayyids, and request them to sign under that ibarat, which is serving as a shahadat and witness that we haven't seen this person doing any sin in our life. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, Arhamur Rahimeen. It requires the smallest witness also has a lot of value. A small witness also has a lot of value in the eyes of Allah. A small witness of a mu'min person carries a lot of weight in the eyes of Allah. So if the 40 people do their shahadat and bear witness for a person, he is forgiven. Allah knows our sins, but He is ready to ignore all the sins that He knows in His knowledge, because now there are 40 people standing here in the Namaz-e-Janaza, Salatul Mayyit, and they are saying, we don't know him doing any sin. Allah knows all the sins, but He is ready to ignore all that He knows about the sins sins of this person, because these 40 don't know. Can you imagine His mercy? If there are some people, if they learn about one aib and defect of a person, that's the end of their relationship for the rest of their life. I cannot get along with this person because, he did this and I saw him doing this. Oh, well, Allah saw a whole bunch of things that we never see. Isn't that right? But He's ready to ignore all that, and He's ready to accept the witness of those 40 people. And you are not ready to ignore one fault of a person that you saw in your life. This is the level of your mercy and rahmat. How can we be the mazhar of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? تَخَلَّقُوا بِأَخْلَاقِ اللَّهِ. That's how some people are. One fault of a person is enough for them to end the whole relationship forever. Okay. Takfeen, wrapping the kafan on a mayyit's body is not jaiz. It is not jaiz to wrap a ghasbi, usurped kafan, usurped from somebody, from the owner. The owner doesn't agree. In such a case, one must seek the owner's izn, permission. Go and seek his permission first before wrapping the kafan. Seek his izn before using the kafan, not after the kafan. Of course, after the kafan, we will be forced to seek the permission as well if somebody did the wrong already. Let's suppose somebody did a wrong and he usurped the kafan from somebody without the owner's permission and put it on the mayyit's body. And now the dead person, this poor guy, is already buried in the grave. What does Islam has to say with that? He is wearing the ghasbi maghsoob kafan. It is the fault of the person who put the kafan, isn't that right? Who took the ghasb, who usurped the kafan and put it. So now Islam says, of course, the nabshul qabr is haram. Opening up the grave of a Muslim person is haram in Islam. That's an insult. You cannot open the grave of a person once he is buried. So now the Sharia says you have to go and seek permission from the owner. Go ahead and make him razi and pleased. Seek his permission. If he gets pleased, fine. Or if he needs the money, fine. We can pay him this much amount at least. We don't have to open up his grave. Isn't it right? That's an insult. In front of the community, or even not in front of the community, you go and open the grave of a Muslim. It's still haram. Even if there's nobody watching you, it's still haram to open up the grave of a Muslim person after burial. So now you have to go and pay him the money or seek his pleasure and riza, his rizayat. If he agrees, fine. If you pay the money, he agrees, fine. If he says no, there is no way I will agree. I need my kafan back. This is one of the places where in the Sharia it is allowed to open the grave. Because ghasb has no room in Islam. You have to give the property back to the owner. Okay? There is no room for that. So, a kafan, providing the kafan through a najis thing, that means you are wrapping up a najis cloth in the place of kafan. Something which is najis, you are not supposed to use it on the dead person's body. Even if the kafan becomes najis, we cut that much portion away. If you can make it clean, make it pak, fine, do it without hurting the ghusl and hurting the rest of the kafan. Without harming, making the rest of the kafan najis. If you can make it pak, fine, do it. Or sometimes it may be insult of a person that you are open up the janazah in front of everybody and bring the pipe and you clean. It looks disrespectful in some cases, isn't that right? So in some cases we just cut a little bit of the kafan and it doesn't harm the wajib amount of kafan, fine, we will cut it. If we cannot wash or if it is disrespectful for the person. But sometimes the najasat is so much you cannot cut, or it is there on the wajib portion of the kafan. And cutting is not going to serve the purpose because you are harming the wajib amount. So that's where the kafan cannot be made najis. Of course we have to clean it or again provide the whole kafan. Let's suppose your qamis, perahan, the wajib amount becomes najis, you have to go and replace it. Either make it pak or you replace with a new one. Kafan through a najis thing is not going to work. It's not jaiz to just bury the person with the najis kafan. It's not going to work like this. A kafan made of pure silk, there is no room for that. One guy came and said, my dad used to like the tie and the suit, 3-piece suit, very much in his lifetime. So now his wife brought, or his daughter brought this guy suited, a 3-piece suit with a tie on him, and she was insisting to bury this person with the tie, with the suit. Qurbune aql bazi hawa. So now there is no room for any pure silk thing. Where pure silk ties or any other things are already haram in Islam, even in the lifetime. You cannot wear or you cannot even buy a pure silk material with the niyat of wearing. That's not even allowed to buy, forget about wearing. With that niyat, it's not okay to buy. Of course, wearing is haram for men, anything of pure silk. But kafan should not be made of pure silk anyway, man or woman, except if no other option is available. You are in a desert or something, or Amazon forest, whatever, you cannot go and buy, you cannot arrange it, you cannot do nothing. You are in an emergency, extraordinary emergency situation where there is no other option at all. Of course, you are not going to bury the person bare and naked. We'll do that in the pure silk, in those extraordinary emergency situations, but that's not the regular ruling. A kafan through gold woven dress. You cannot provide a kafan to a person through a cloth which is gold woven. There has threads of gold in it. Have you seen those sheikhs of the little tiny sheikhdoms of the Persian Gulf, wearing abas with their gold threads on it? Some people think this is going to make them big and high because they are wearing gold. This is haram in Islam for men to wear gold on their bodies or on their hands, rings, Have you seen those people buying the gold bands for their future son-in-laws? Buying the gold band for the future son-in-law. Please don't take the haram on your neck, haram of your son-in-law if he wears tomorrow the gold ring in his hand, marriage ring, and you will get the haram constantly. This is one of the al-ma'asi ad-da'imiyya. Remember I did a speech here a while ago. We have two types of sins in Islam, al-ma'asi al-inniyya and al-ma'asi ad-da'imiyya. There's some sins which are just momentary. You just do the wrong thing once and that's it. And it ends there. It's momentary sins. Inniyya, aniyya, sorry. Al-ma'asi al-aniyya. And there are certain things which are consistent, constant. They are al-ma'asi al-da'imiyya. They are constantly written haram in your book of deeds, constantly, without stopping. So this is one of the constantly written harams in your book of deeds. You are buying a gold band for your son-in-law and he is wearing it. Of course he is doing haram, but he, in addition to getting the haram, but you are also part of the haram constantly. Except if no option is available. You are in a desert situation there, you can't go and buy, you can't find out, you can't search and get something nice which is permissible. Now of course you have nothing but this, you are not going to bury the person naked, you have to put it in that. Of course that's an emergency situation, but that's not the regular ruling. Hukm Thanawi. It is mustahab that a person arranges for his kafan, sidr and kafur in his own lifetime. We already discussed that, kafan, and of course the sidr and kafur is also part of the whole thing. See, Islam is not even putting the burden on the community to buy sidr for you. How much sidr costs? Yeah? It's very cheap. But even that much little amount, Islam is not putting a burden of your finances on somebody else. Such a logical religion. And I always say to these brothers, please don't sit idle in your houses. Go and work instead of getting the social security allowance and staying idle and being a burden on the others. Allah gave you health and aql and strength. Go out and work. Don't become a burden. Mal'oonun man kalluhu ala nas. Somebody whose finances and expenses are on somebody else, on the people. He's mal'oon. Go work yourself. Earn the money. Don't be a burden on others. So even your own sidr, you need to arrange the sidr yourself. Either the sidr or the money for that. Or kafur. It's a very simple amount. It's not $100 million. But still you have to do it. Even that much burden is not there on the people. Yeah, some people are just sitting in their homes, doing nothing, getting their allowances, and every day there's a fight going on. The husband and wife, they fight. The husband who is supposed to go and work outside, he's staying inside home, staying idle and getting the social security allowance. Every day there's a fight going on. What is this type of lifestyle? Where does it come from? Not from Islam. Okay. Scene is still continuing. Wrapping the couple of the
Muhammad wa ali bayt Muhammad salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum.
लाइट बंद कर दें प्लीज लाइट बंद कर
Can you please turn off the light? It is not jais to wrap a ghasbi, usurped kafan. In such a case, one must seek the ism from an owner. And yeah, we did this one already. Okay, the 10th slide of Takfeen 3.10. miscellaneous ahkam, it is ihtiyat wujubi, ihtiyat wajib, that all three cloths are not see-through. It should not be see-through, it should be like a thick cloth, so that the body is not revealed. The kafan of wife is wajib on the husband to pay for and arrange, even if he divorces his wife. Even if you divorce your wife, but your wife is in her iddat and waiting period, and she dies during the iddat and waiting period, it is wajib on you to provide all her expenses, her nafaqah, and all the expenses and nafaqah, quote unquote, includes the kafan as well. So it's wajib on the husband to buy the kafan, even if the wife is a multi-billionaire. It's not wajib on her to buy her own kafan. Rules are, we need to follow the principles. There is no compromise in the principles. Doesn't matter, you are jobless and she is multi-billionaire. The principles are going to remain the same, no matter what. You have to work hard, get the money, and do your liability. Don't run away from your duty. It's not wajib on her to use her billions of dollars and buy her $20 kafan. No, that's not wajib. That's not her job. It's your job. You do your side of the job. So the kafan of the wife is wajib on the husband, even if she is rich, even for a mutallaqa, woman who is divorced during their iddat. After, if the iddat passes by, of course now she is no longer your wife after the iddat ends, then it's her own liability. It's not yours any longer. If the mayyit did his wasiyyat, his will, that the kafan should be from his or her sulus. Sulus means 1/3 of the money that he leaves behind. Virasat, 1/3 of the miras, 1/3 of his mal and belongings. Sulus means 1/3. If the mayyit did his wasiyyat, that the kafan should be from his sulus, or the sulus must be spent on him, on her, the mustahab part of kafan can be taken from the sulus. Yeah, this is another very interesting point to remember. When you do your wasiyyat in Islam, your wasiyyat basically applies on 1/3 of your money. Be very clear about it. Let's suppose you have $9,000 and you are writing down your wasiyyat. Okay, when I die, please spend $5,000 to the orphan children. Now this wasiyyat, $5,000 cannot be acted upon, first of all, because there is a rule from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already there, and Allah's hukum is above anybody else. Allah's hukum of the Sharia says wasiyyat of a person is only applicable on 1/3 of his miras, not the entire miras, 1/3 of the miras. So your wealth that you are leaving behind is $9,000. Let's suppose the whole miras you are leaving behind is $9,000. So your wasiyyat, whatever you are writing in your will, is only applicable to $3,000. So the 3,000 you can decide according to your will. This is what Allah has given you the right. You want to help the orphans and yateem, very good. Go give the whole 9,000 in your lifetime. That's the right way of handling it. You give the whole 9,000 in your life. But once you die, this is no longer your choice. Your hukum of the Sharia says your wasiyat applies to 1/3 only. The rest of the 2/3, according to the rules of the Quran, it has to be distributed. The siham of Quran, and no one can undo that in Islam. So the wasiyat, if the mayyit did his wasiyat, that the kafan should be from his sulus, and that's good. That's okay. You did your sulus, you're supplying on your 1/3 of the money, that's okay. Or the sulus must be spent on him and her. You did the wasiyat, okay. All of my $3,000 should be spent one way or the other on me, on my grave, on the gravestone, on this and that. There's all things related to me. Fine. 1/3 is your choice. You do your wasiyat for 1/3. But you cannot do it for more than 1/3. Or, so now the mustahab part of the kafan can be taken from the sulus. because you did your wasiyat that your kafan should be taken from the sulus, and the sulus must be you did the wasiyat that your sulus, 1/3 of the money should be spent on you. So now the mustahab part of the kafan can also be taken from the sulus. Otherwise, only the wajib part will be taken from your money, not the mustahab things. Because why are you allowing your rest of the inheritors to get the burden of your mustahab kafan? The rest of the money doesn't belong to you now after your death. The rest of the money belongs to your waratha, your inheritors. Why are you obliging your inheritors to pay for the mustahab part of your kafan? Well, only the wajib part. Your mustahab part can be paid if you did the wasiyat that your sulus, it should be taken from the sulus, or the whole 1/3, whole sulus should be spent on you. Then the mustahab part of the kafan can be taken from your 1/3 of the money, okay? Otherwise, we'll take the wajib amount. And then it will be left up to the rest of your inheritors to decide whether they want to give, because now the rest of the money is theirs. You're not the malik, you're not the owner of that money any longer after your death. They are the owner of your money. Let them decide if they want to spend their money. That's not your money any longer. If they want to spend their money on your mustahab kafan, then they have the right to decide, not you. Okay? Now we'll move forward to the step number 4, the 4th T. We had the 7 T's here that we... 7:30. Okay, then let's finish. We'll put it in the next class, inshallah. وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطاهرين. Thank you very much.
اللهم صل على محمد